Welcome to the first edition of Behind the Boxer, and you are here with Andreozzi. We will be interviewing today and going over a few things based on life and just his story.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being a part of it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, I'm very new to the boxing scene. I started a little over 2.5 years ago. I started during COVID, so there weren't really fights happening. I didn't get any amateur experience, and I just decided I went down, had a street beef fight down in Kentucky, and decided to go pro after that. It was a bit of a rough start at first. Dropped my first two fights, tough decisions, but put up such a good fight that their promoter signed me after the second fight. And now, within a year and a half, actually, no, within a year, almost a year to the date, I won my first pro title. Moved up. I made my debut at 47, but I won at 60. So I've bounced all
That,
around.
that's pretty huge. Tell us about your journey to getting towards boxing.
So that was a wild one. Growing up, I know you hear lots of times, you hear people, in the streets, oh, I have 100 street fights. I kind of am that guy that has 100 street fights. Not something, I'm not really proud of it. It's just how I was raised, molded me. But one of those street fights in particular landed me in some serious trouble. And between probation and the anger management counselor, they both recommended I should look into a boxing gym to kind of get some of that bad energy out. And that's exactly what I did. And I was hooked right from the first day.
So literally, like you were led to the gym directly.
Literally, my anger management counselor and probation said that's part of it. They joked about it. They're like, "Oh, this is part of your probation. You have to join the gym." They were joking, but they literally told me, "Once you leave here, go find a gym, go throw your hands, go get some of that aggression out, and your life's gonna start changing." I tell you what, it did. As soon as I had a place to get all that bad energy out, my days were better, my nights were better, my mood was better, life in general was better.
Wow. So would you say that boxing is great therapy for mental health?
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. It's, everybody has their own things. I have ED and whatnot, and boxing's the only thing that's honestly ever been able to help that. That extreme stimulation quells my mind for the rest of the day, the rest of the night, into the next day. If I go a week without sparring, my freaking brain starts short.
Wow. And where are you based out of?
I live in Swansea, Mass. My gym's actually in Swansea, but we started in the Fall River area. So I live right between Fall River and Providence, Rhode Island, kind of right in the middle.
Got you. So what would you say growing up in that area was like?
It's a mix. So I was from a town. We're a town right between the two cities. I grew up more of like a sticks kind of life in a way. I was a town kid. We had a farm. Weren't really like pig farmers. I raced sled dogs growing up, so I had a kennel. We had some horses and stuff. So pretty much grew up in the woods on the dirt bike and racing sled dogs. Between the two of those, that's what kept me occupied, amongst other sports. But I guess it was more or less just athletics. What this area was for me.
Um, what would you say were some of the biggest challenges fighting during COVID?
Finding fights. Like I said, I joined the gym and COVID happened right then. I think I had a couple of smokers in that time. And smokers they're like the gym fights. So they're put on in a gym. They're not sanctioned. They're not even refereed. It's basically like live sparring. Like if you've ever heard of Spar Wars, it's pretty much what it is. You know, you get a group of people together and you decide, okay, I want you to fight you, and 2 minutes, headgear, big gloves. They're not trying to knock anybody out. They're very low key. That wasn't enough for me. And COVID happened, and gyms were shut down, and I had actually made a really, really close friend in the boxing gym I started at, and it was like a box fit type gym. It wasn't really a hardcore boxing gym. But I made friends with this kid. He was a little younger than me. Actually, he was like 17 at the time. And me and him we connected. We were always sparring. He became my first real sparring partner. So when COVID happened, all the gyms shut down. I rented a space, and I built my own little personal private boxing gym, and I was paying a coach to come down and train with me down there for a little while. That wasn't really the most affordable thing, so I only did it, for a little while till we found better means till gyms started opening and we could get back out there. And then we found a gym, and it's been uphill ever since. Actually, by finding a gym, we were invited to my coach's basement. It's my coach, Aaron Bernardo. He started his fight team in his basement, and he invited us down there to do sparring down there. Now, he had a couple of ropes, like not even climbing ropes, like tie down ropes, half-inch rope, anchored into his wall, tied around the main post in his basement into the other wall. It was a rack shackety type situation. He invited us down there to spar, and I remember I sparred two of the biggest guys there, and we fight. We don't do light sparring. I mean, we do, but our big test is we fight in there. I was in there with a 200-pound guy and a 230-pound guy. They were trying to knock me out, and I was trying to beat the hell out of them. And they couldn't drop me. They couldn't hurt me. So they kind of absorbed me. They said, we want this guy on the team, and that's how our team grows. When we meet guys that can push back as hard as us, we want them on the team. And a lot of times, if they can, it's because they're tough enough. We're not an easy gym to stay apart when it comes to that.
Now, you a lot of guys that are a lot bigger than you. How does that?
It's funny. The size actually works against them. One thing I'll say all the time is that I'm not a confident person. I don't fuck with confidence. Confidence betrays you. I don't doubt myself. From my past, I know whatever situation I'm in, I'll figure out how to get through it and how to prosper. A lot of these taller, bigger guys, that gives them this confidence, this false sense of security. I'm so much bigger. My next opponent is 6'3". He's got a probably close to 80 something inch reach. I'm 5'7" with a 70-inch reach, 69 something. It's between 69 and 70-inch reach. I'm not a big guy. I'm small, so he's gonna think that my long jab's gonna work. All my long punches are gonna work. I'm gonna be able to use my range. He's gonna go in confident, and as soon as I take that away from him, his confidence is gonna start diminishing and diminishing. And then the more your confidence crashes, the more weaknesses you leave, the more openings you leave. And that's when I strike until it's over. I proved that in my last fight. Kid I fought was about 6'1", but he was built. He was a bodybuilder. Dude was huge. I look like a dwarf compared to him. Same thing, big long reach, and he had what's called a bazooka jab. A lot of power in that lead jab, and he'd crack you with it, and then he'd work off of it. I studied all of his films. I had a teammate that fought him before. So I had a lot of films and actually first-hand experience seeing my teammate's style against his and what worked and what didn't work. So I developed a game plan, and I took away that bazooka jab. and he kind of crumbled after that. He didn't know how to build off of his offense without that jab. And I say it all the time, confidence betrays. That was him being confident. And as soon as, the things he were confident in weren't working, he didn't know what to do.
And when is your next fight?
February 18th in Melrose, Mass.
What were your 20s like? And I know you mentioned that you went to jail at 19.
I did. Yep. My 20s were wild, man. Kind of a Renaissance man story. Went to jail at 19. I was out. I was on house arrest for a while. Then after all that cleared up, I met a girl. I was in college too at the time. I met a girl. We moved in together. We had a stepdaughter between each. Not my daughter, my stepdaughter, but I met her at about a year and a half old. So been tight ever since. But we're both going to college. Then that became impossible for two people to be, putting ourselves through college. So I dropped out to put my wife through. She's a nurse now, and I worked my ass off. In that time, my sister, one of my sisters, lost custody of her two kids after, disagreement with her. Or basically, she got into a fight with her boyfriend, and it took her a while to get her kids back. So they lived with me for 2 years. So I went from jail, no kids, and then within 3 years, I had 3 kids under my roof and putting a wife through college and, paying for a house. I was traveling the country, working 100+ hours a week, and it's pretty wild. And then once my nephew and niece went back with their parents, and I decided to have our own kids, build our own family. Now she's traveling. She calls herself a traveling nurse. Basically, she's a home care nurse. So she makes really good money doing that. And when we were younger, the agreement when I dropped out of college was that once she was done and a nurse and developed her own career, that I'd be able to basically quit working and focus on my career, go to college, do whatever I want. I was going to college for architecture when I was younger, but that changed as I got older. And everything happened right around the same time that, she was doing so good with her job. I was doing very good with boxing. So she decided, why don't you quit working, focus entirely on boxing? And that'll be, I worked my ass off for the first 6 years of our relationship. She said, we agreed back then it's going to be 2 years, 2 year span when I didn't have to worry about work, go to college, just figure out whatever my dream was, I would achieve it in those 2 years. And I decided to be a boxer.
That's great right there. Another thing you said when you described yourself, you said late bloomer to boxing. How does that feel? Do you even feel like there is such thing as a late bloomer when it comes to boxing?
Yes, yes, and to be honest, some people think it's like a setback, and I don't. I'm 32 right now, and like I said, I put myself in some horrible situations, and I fought my way out of it. Tough as hell, but I'm mature enough to know that I don't have to use that toughness 100% of the time. I can use my brain rather than just sitting there taking punishment, like a nothing against Beterbiev, but that dude's a house. He just sits there, eats punches, presses forward. But his brain is going to be shot. I started late, so I have a weird style. I don't get hit all that often. I'm very elusive. And I don't have 20 years of getting punched in the head, weighing against my brain. There's some local guys where I sparred them. And yeah, they can take punches like crazy. This dude's, he sat there. Oh, I could do this all day while he's getting punched on. Not really doing much back. And he's got a good record, got a big name. big name in my area specifically. But then after sparring, he's drooling and mumbling, and you can barely understand a word he's saying. He's been doing it since he was 10. He's my age, and he sounds, have conversations with him. He sounds like you're talking to Ali in his 50s, 60s. It was a lot of damage he took. I feel like that's something that benefits me being a late bloomer. I don't have 20 years of damage. I have 2 years of damage.
Uh, Very, very interesting perspective because that allows you to actually move forward in a different way
Yeah,
versus someone who has like years and years of damage. Like you can move forward actually more progressively.
exactly.
Yeah,
And without all the head damage over the years, I can take risks. You hit me with a punch, and yeah, I get caught in all my fights. It's not something. It's not like I'm invincible. I do lots of weird stuff. I love putting my hands down, baiting punches, and do stuff like that. I work off of it great. To be honest, with my hands behind my back, I land. I think two of my fights, I was landing at 80 something percent from that position, my hands behind my back. I was only getting cracked a couple of times. Granted, you get cracked. Yeah, it does hurt. But like I said, I don't have all those years of getting beat up. So if I'm taking a couple of big shots like that in a fight, it's not going to hurt as much.
where would you like to go in your boxing career? Future.
I, I don't know. I'm 32 years old. Only have a couple of years experience. I'm going to take it as high as I possibly can. Uh, whether my body stops me or, whatever. I don't know where I'm taking it. I'd love to be highly ranked in the world. But like I said, starting at 32, I don't know exactly what my future holds. I don't really worry about that. I fought for a belt. I won a belt. I don't think there's a single picture of me wearing the belt. I gave it to my coach. I don't really care about belts and material things like that. I just want to fight and keep fighting tougher dudes and step up. And I don't fight just. I'm not fighting for belts. I fight because I absolutely love fighting, and because it's easier to fight and get paid after than if I wasn't in boxing, I'd be fighting and coming out of pocket a lot of money for bail and lawyers. So it's a good trade-off.
What advice would you give someone that wanted to be a boxer and they were starting young or just kind of, or even advice you would give someone starting as a late bloomer?
Find a coach that can work with your style. And I kind of got to explain that a little bit. I bounced around from, this gym to that gym, and I worked with this coach, and they all wanted to mold me into this. A lot of guys have this perfect idea of what a boxer is, but that's a style that's perfect for whoever it's perfect for. You have so many things. You have athleticism, you have build. Some guys have longer arms, and their punches can go at different trajectories. Some guys have shorter arms, and they can get power without having to, turn themselves in a certain way. Not every style fits every body type, mindset, So those other coaches, they wanted to shape me into this picture boxer. That didn't work for me. I found a coach that found my strengths and made them superpowers, and he found my weaknesses, and we chiseled away at those every single day, and we made them less weakness and diminished them rather than him trying to mold me into this one boxer. Like a lot of these gyms, they'll have one style, and that's the best. Yeah, that style works if you're built exactly for the style. But boxing, the thing about boxing is anybody can make it. Our gym looks insane. The difference in the sizes and this, we got middleweight sparring with heavyweights, and we got super lightweight sparring with middleweights. We bounce all around. We have lots of different styles, and my coach doesn't try making one style of fighter out of anybody. He adapts. everything. So my biggest like helping suggestion, anybody that wants to get into boxing, is find a coach. Find a coach that works with you, not a coach that just wants you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, do this, be this, and that's all I want to see. Find a coach that knows how to take you, shape you into the best version of yourself, not try and make you a version of something else that you.
That's I've never actually heard anyone say that before because a lot of people, coaches, just try to shape the person, who they feel can be successful. They don't
Mhm.
actually work out.
Well, a couple of real life examples are. You ever noticed how some of the best fighters in the world make horrible coaches?
Yep.
Not saying Roy Jones Jr. is a horrible coach, but Chris was under him for one fight and the boy got knocked out bad, you know? Am I saying that's his fault? No, it's not. But as an elite athlete, as one of the best fighters that I've ever watched, Roy Jones Jr. has a style that fits him perfectly. But you take that style and you apply it to somebody who doesn't have, that's not built the same as you, that doesn't move the same, he doesn't think the same as you. Well, that style didn't work for Chris, you know. Chris looked okay doing it, but it wasn't working for him. Not the way it was working for Roy, you know. A lot of coaches that had, they had an okay boxing career, but they were never elite. Those guys seem to make better coaches, you know, because they don't have that blind confidence in their style. Like I said, confidence betrays. A lot of those elite boxers, they have confidence in my style is the best, and that's it. Any other style is, my style can beat every other style. And that's in their head. They want all of their fighters to fight like that. And it doesn't work with all the fighters.
Are there any closing thoughts that you would like to say?
Uh, Not really. Tune in to my fight February 18th. It's going to be on boxingtv.com. It'll be Turf Wars 4. Myself and my teammate, John Gruber, is fighting Justin Rolfe for, I don't actually remember the name of the belt. It's a national belt, but it's going to be a good fight. Two guys, they're both shorter, stockier heavyweights. Justin Rolfe, I think, is about 5'10. Gruber's about 6 foot. Justin Rolfe is a former power lifter and collegiate power lifter, actually. He's a real strong guy. And John Gruber had a background in Muay Thai, kickboxing, and MMA, actually, before he jumped to boxing. So he has a weird style, lots of, hand games and hand blocking and whatnot. So it'll be a fun fight to watch. A powerhouse versus kind of more of a tactician with good defense, but they're both around the same type of build, So it's going to be an interesting matchup.
Nice. And where can people find you on social media?
Uh, my Instagram is gentlesavage54, and my name is Anthony Andreozzi on Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.